even if you're not a health fanatic, I mean, you want to be able to keep the quality of life in your years as you get older. Meaning you want to be able to move, feel good, not be in pain, have energy, being able to cognitively process and think and perform into your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like you were in your 20s and 30s and 40s. So we're going to just give you some simple foundational principles, right? The Pareto principle, the 20% that give you the 80% of the results. And we're going to dive into that here today. Evan, how are we doing today, man?
Doing well. You know, it's funny, people will use the term health nut, and it's almost like a bad thing. People will say health nut like it's something that shouldn't be happening. It's like, well, what are you if you're not a health nut? Are you a health ignorer? You know, I'd much rather prefer to be a health nut than a health ignorer. I want to be 50, 60, 70. I look at some of my aging grandparents. I look at just aging people around me, and I see the decline in people. And I don't want to say I'm afraid of it, but I see it. And I know that we have strategies to slow that down or possibly prevent it. You and I were talking about one of these studies. It's in PubMed on it's in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine, all about the blue zones. And you see some of these lessons from the world's longest lived people. And I'm like, okay, well, what can we take? I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but what can we take from them, and what are they doing to live to 90? And they have no chronic disease mostly. And you look at even some of the tribal societies, you know, there's not high blood pressure, there's not depression. What are they doing that we're not doing? I think the first thing is that they don't have the level of inflammation that we have. And I know that was on your list of things we wanted to hit on.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of different concepts here we're going to kind of touch upon and highlight. And, you know, you talked about the whole health nut thing. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that aren't healthy, and they're reminded about people in their life that are healthy. And it's easy to project your insecurity on someone else versus you take responsibility and accountability. Now, obviously, we want to get people's health up to a level where if they aren't perfect on their diet, they're still going to be able to bounce back. They'll still be adaptive. They can have a glass of wine here or there. Maybe they can cheat a little bit with certain foods and not have major setbacks. But in the end, we want to get people feeling great. And then you get to decide as the person, you know, how good you want to feel. Some people, they come off it a little bit. They feel like crap for days, and that little treat's not worth it. Some, hey, they're not that bad and they're good in a couple hours, right? So everyone's got to feel how adaptive and responsive they are to not being 100% on. And then that's your decision. And so my goal isn't to say you should be a health nut or you should be perfect or you should do 80-20, 80% on, 20% off. My goal is to get you to feel as good as possible. And then you get to make that decision of, you know, what that in between looks like for you.
Yeah. So how does inflammation factor into this? I mean, this is something people throw around. They throw around the term inflammation. I think really you got to kind of break it apart. Are you talking neuroinflammation from toxins? Are you talking like systemic inflammation that you're going to measure on blood work? Is this like bad oils, you know, junky seed oils creating inflammation? Yeah. Is this bad foods? Are these infections like Lyme creating issues with the joints? And that's inflammation there. I mean, I think the word inflammation is kind of overused and abused. So maybe you could kind of tease apart what you mean when you're thinking of this as one of the strategies to address.
Absolutely.